Welcome to the Alabama Nature Center Creek Hike. This is where we get in the water and investigate all the things about a moving freshwater creek. We're going to look at some things that are in the creek, we're going to look at the way the creek moves and changes over time, and we're going to look at some of the things that live outside of the creek. The best part about this hike is you are in the water from beginning to end. Let's go. Here we go. Now, one of the coolest things about having to be an animal that lives in the water is that this environment is constantly changing, and you have to have adaptations that help you to survive here. Just in this one little spot, you can look. There is a zone that is a freshwater pool where the water's not moving. It gets a little bit deeper, and there's a little bit bigger organisms. Maybe there's a big fish hiding down there waiting to take a peek at you and I. And then as you move across the creek, it gets shallow again, and you can look where you can see the water moving, and it picks up speed as it goes around the corner and turns and heads on downstream. And when it goes downstream, it's taking whatever is in the water with it if it hits the current. You can see the floating things now. Now, every stream or creek is characterized by different places. We're going to walk through a few of them. If you look over at the bank on the left, you'll see all those bare roots, and you see where the soil or the bank has been eroded away. When it rains, this creek will fill up with water at a faster rate, and the level will rise, and it will go up pretty quick, and then it will scour along the corner as it turns. We're going to call that the cutting edge, because every time the creek turns a corner, there's a cutting edge, and then there's a laying edge, which is across the bank from it. So the force hits the water on the cutting edge side, and as the creek water subsides after the flood is done, it will come slowly down, and you can see that on the laying edge where sand is accumulating. And if you look at that ledge up at the top, you see the big heavy rocks, and then as you get closer to the water, you see sand and tiny little rocks. Well, that's just the way that water carries things, and when it subsides, the heavy things drop out first, and then the lighter things drop out closer to the edge of the creek. We're going to walk along the creek. We're going to leave our pool area where there might be a big fish hiding in wait. Or, I will tell you truthfully, if I were a water snake, this would be a great place for me to hang out in the vegetation where I could hide if the sun were right, and where there were fish swimming below me and in the water. I'd be able to find a nice meal down there. We're going to walk downstream just a bit here. And you might notice as we walk along the creek, there is nothing growing in the water. There's no plants growing here because they can't take root. The water's always moving, and it would take something special in order for us to put our roots down and not flow off with the water. So guess where all the nutrition comes from in the creek? Look up. All around us, you see trees and plants growing on the bank and on the side. And when the leaves fall down, where do they go? They fall into the creek. And those leaves that fall down, the seeds that fall down, the sticks that fall down, they are the nutrition for the creek life. So your plant eaters and things that feed on vegetation in the water are going to be found hanging on somewhere, waiting to grab that food as it comes by. And this is a perfect place where that happens. This is a riffle zone. And a riffle zone is where the water is shallow, and it kind of tumbles over the rocks as it goes downstream. It's necessary for the creek to have some of those places so that it can put oxygen back into the water again. Do you see the bubbles that are coming up at the end of the riffle zone down there? The plants aren't putting the oxygen in the water. The movement of the water helps to add that. Over here on the right, there is a dragonfly who has just landed on the rocks by the side of the water. Now he's hanging out there, maybe looking for a nice juicy insect to eat. Oh. Or he could be waiting to find another of his kind, because they will lay their eggs in creek water as well as pond water, lake water, puddles, depending on the species that they are. It changes. Each one has a preference. Now, if you look up from where Mr. Dragonfly is, you can see where the water levels have changed over time. Previously, the water was up here, and it receded a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And this isn't over long amounts of time. This is between rainfalls, rainfall to rainfall. As we end the riffle zone, we're going to another cutting edge here on the bank where it's eroding away. And another rolling edge up here, where the rocks have laid down and the sand is closer to the water. Now, as we walk, keep your eyes on the rocks because this is a place that heats up. And when it heats up, it makes good habitat for butterflies and insects to puddle. They can get moisture out of the sand and minerals without getting drowned by being in the moving water. So we'll keep looking at the rocks. And you'll notice something else while you look at the rocks. If you were here to pick one up, each of these rocks you hold, you can turn them over in your hands and feel them. There aren't any rough edges on there. Those rocks have been tumbled over time after time after time again in the water, and all of their rough edges and angles have been smoothed off over time. Now if you look, this is a healthy creek bank, and if you look at it, there's not just one size plant. There are little plants, there are medium-sized plants, and there are tall, tall trees. Everything in between, which is necessary for the creek to function because remember, they're dropping leaves and things into the water the whole time to provide food for the system. I wonder who else would hang around the creek. So there's fishes and crayfishes in the water. In fact, did you know that Alabama has so much freshwater habitat that we have a large diversity of freshwater animals? In fact, compared to the other 50 states, Alabama is #1 in diversity for freshwater turtles, freshwater fish, crayfish, mussels, and snails. In fact, while we're walking, we might see some snail trails, but look right here. So it's kind of hard to see. The sun has changed a little bit, but last night somebody walked out of the water right here. You can see some little paw prints with the little toes here. Who do you think that is? That is a raccoon. So, you know one of their very favorite foods are crayfish to eat. I don't happen to see any crayfish right here, but he might have come up to get a drink of water while he was at it. But he walked here and here. He probably stepped on these leaves over here and then over here again, and he went on his way over there along the rocks. The water's pretty important to him and a lot of other animals that come out around here too. Now this, you might wonder why we left this big old tree hanging out here in the creek. You can tell it's been cut off. But it's real important so that animals can hang out, get out, bask. If you're a turtle or a freshwater snake, you want to get out where you can be in the sun, dry up, heat up, and then get back in the water to find your food again. So it's good habitat, and it's important for the things that live in and around the water too. Already you can see there's some sawdust. I wonder who made that. There's some insects in there, and a mushroom. Oh, and look, see that shiny little trail right there? There's a slug who has made his home on this American sycamore as well. All right, let's go under the log, see what we get. Now, if you look at the way that the sand sits in the bottom of the stream, you can see how after the rain it settled out in little waves. And you can watch it. It's not moving now. But again, when the water picks up volume, the speed picks up and it'll start rushing down through here. And as it settles, it leaves those waves of sand. Oh, now this is perfect. Right here, this doesn't look like much to you or I. It looks like a stick in the water with some leaves on it. But that overhanging vegetation, that overhanging stuff in the water is where food collects. And right here or these leaves are collected on this stick, is how food gets trapped. And it all starts here. Things, oh, there's a spider. There's a longjaw spider. She's got the hang of it. She's gonna hang out and collect whatever is coming to eat out of this. And then the fish will eat the things that are living in that. And then the other animals will come and eat them as well. Look over here. The raccoon wasn't the only animal that came here last night. Starting up there on that bank, do you see that sandy edge coming down? One or two deer ran across here, stepped here, went across the creek, and up the other side. Here's one really nice track. The others are kind of all muddy. Looks like they were going kind of fast when they hit it. Nice little arrow shape points the direction where they're going. Across the water and up the other side. Now, as we hike further into the creek, there's different things that we'll look for. We'll keep looking for how the creek changes over time. We'll keep looking for hidden places where animals lay hiding, maybe hoping that we can't find them so that we can point them out and talk about the animals that use the creek. We've talked about a few of them here, but there's many more. And we talk about some of the animals that live up higher in the trees as they go around. Everything is connected to everything else. And the creek is a good way to explore habitat. It's a good way to explore geological formations. It's a good way to explore adaptations. Hope you can come and join us on a creek hike here at the Nature Center, whether it be in a birthday party or a field trip with school or summer camp. It'll be a blast.